Greetings all and welcome to Yarnspirations.com. I'm Mary Beth Temple for Hooked for Life, and in this video we're going to take a look at the Knit Fair Isle hat. Now this is in a very cool new yarn called Caron and Pantone, and it comes in this braid and it has 5 different colors in it. Now, to make this hat, you're going to need 1 braid. Now, it mentions purple pops in the pattern, but I'm using strawberry chill, and you can use whichever color that makes the most sense to you. You're going to need 2 sets of 4 DPNs, size US 9, which is 5.5 millimeter, and US 10, which is 6 millimeter, or size needed to obtain gauge, of course, and you're going to need a stitch marker, and I recommend a locking one. Now, we're going to first look at taking this braid apart so you can use all the yarns. But the other thing I want to point out is this is knitted color work. It is Fair Isle. And we have the chart offered in 2 different colors. And we have the 2 different colorways sort of laid out at the beginning. No matter which color you're using, what I want you to do first, and I'm going to show you how to take the braid apart to wind up the balls, but I want to make sure that you decide which color is A, which is B, which is C, which is D, which is E, because that's going to help you moving forward. So let's take a look at taking apart the braid. When you get your braid of Caron and Pantone yarns, it will look just like this. You want to go to either side, doesn't matter which side, and find the horizontal thread. Now I like to stick my finger under there to make sure that I'm only trimming that 1 thread. I don't want you to cut your finger, but I don't want you to hit the wrong thread either. So you're going to clip that. And now all you have to do is take them out. Pull one out, pull the next, and the next, and the next, and the bottom one is also going to have that horizontal thread, which is why I said you could start at either end. So again, want to make sure that that horizontal thread is the only one that I am clipping. After that's all done, I'm going to look to where it's bundled. I'm going to look for a knot and see where it's tied up, and I'm going to grab that and open that up so it will unwind to one big hank. Now I'm going to cut these knots away. I like to cut the knots all the way off because I don't want them in the way later. There's my beginning and the end. Now all I have to do, I'm going to give this a snap just to make sure all the yarn is lying neatly. And all I have to do is unwind. Now you can, if you have a Swift, or you can use it, or you can put it around a book, or your nearest friend or family member can put their hands in there and hold it wide for you, but this is how you're going to wind up the yarn. So I know I've mentioned this, but it's really important. Once you get all 5 of these colors wound up, make sure that in your mind, and possibly on your pattern, you've written down which is A, B, C, D, E, etc., to make sure that you know what color you're going to use at what time. So I'm going to finish winding up my yarn, and let's take a look at the beginning of the hat. As always, I have cheated just a little bit. I've cast on fewer stitches and I've done fewer rows, but generally speaking, here's your ribbing and here are your rounds in A, and you will have noticed that I have locked a stitch marker onto the first stitch of the round. Now, when knitting in the round on double points, it's important that you mark the stitch and not the needle, because the needles change as you go around, and it's also really easy for that needle to fall off. Now, should you lose track, it's easy enough to find the cast on the tail and know that that is the row you started on. But generally speaking, it's best to mark the stitch. Now, you don't have to move it up every single round. I usually move it up every 2 or 3 rounds. So I'm going to begin working on the chart. Now, I'm knitting off the version 2 chart. For these first couple of rounds, what I'm going to need is contrast B and contrast C. Now, B is the color that I've already been working on. My 8 rounds of working even were in the B color, so that's already there. I'm going to add the C by pulling up a fold, maybe 6 inches, 15 centimeters in from the cut end, and I'm going to just knit with that yarn and keep going. I can always go back and weave that end in later. I don't have to tie a knot or anything like that. Now, the next thing I need to know is that I am always, in this case, reading the rounds of the chart from right to left. A lot of times here we've done charts where you read that color that way and this color this way, and that's because you're working in rows. But since we're in rounds, we are always working from right to left. Now, there are only 4 stitches in this repeat, so you're going to repeat those 4 stitches over and over and over. And I know you'd rather watch me knit than listen to me talk, but the last thing I want to talk about is the how to carry the floats. And we do have a note here. So it says, when working from the charts, carry the yarn not in use loosely across the wrong side of the work, but never over more than 5 stitches. I don't think that's going to happen in this pattern. That's just a good general rule, that when it must pass over more 5 stitches, you'd weave it over and under the color not in use. But the colors are not twisted around one another. That's the point I wanted to make. It is not like in Tarja where you have to go crazy and make sure the twists are absolutely identical from stitch to stitch. That said, I tend to have my yarn new under old or old under new, just because I think it makes it neater on the back. But this is not, this is more of a Fair Isle technique than an intarsia technique, so that twisting thing is not something that we really need to worry about. So coming back to this chart, I'm going to knit 2B, then 2C, and I'm going to do that all the way around. 2B, 2C, 2B, 2C. See this one? I'm going that way over and over and over. So B is my color that's already there. 1, 2, and now I'm going to add my C color. Again, I'm not going to tie a knot or anything. I'm just going to make sure I have enough tail to weave in later. 2C. Now, you don't want to pull the float too tight. That yarn that comes across the back is called the float. You don't want the float to be too tight, because that makes the work pull in horizontally, but you also don't want it so loose that you get caught on it. You know, that there's all that floaty yarn hanging out in the back and making you a little crazy. So I'm just going to keep going all the way around with my 4 stitch repeat. Now let's just take a look at the back. So you can see the yarns are crossing over each other. Those are my floats. But once again, you don't have to worry specifically about twisting them or anything like that. And I want them to be tight enough that the stitches hold their gauge, but not so tight that the work draws in horizontally. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to finish this round. And then we're going to take just a brief look at the second round of the chart. So there's my first round of the chart completed. Once again, you're alternating 2s here, and you can see on the wrong side of the work, let's get that tail out of the way, you can see my little floats just working all the way around. So now I'm moving on to the second round, once again working from right to left because I'm knitting in rounds, and that will be 1B, 2 C's, 1B. Now I'm going to repeat that over and over again. So essentially what's going to happen, if you were to imagine these end to end, after I get it established with my 1B stitch, it is going to be 2C, 2B, 2C. It's going to be 2 all the way around, but it's offset by 1 from the round beneath it. So I'm going to go ahead and knit that round. After that, all I'm going to do is continue working my way up. Now when I get to here, I'm going to go ahead and cut my B yarn, again leaving a tail that I can weave in later, because these are solid color rounds and I don't need anything to float or to track up. When I get up to this final section, I'm adding my D color. It'll be 2D and 2C all the way around. So again, it really is a matter of counting to 4 over and over again, all the way around your round, and every couple of rounds take a moment and move that stitch marker up so that you can remember where it is. Finally, when you have knit all the way through the chart, all you're going to do up here is your crown decreases. And these are all very simple because also by this point, you're back working in one color. There's no two color work at the same point as the decrease. When you've knit through all your decrease rounds, you're going to have 12 stitches left. You're going to break yarn, leaving a long end, and thread that through and end it off. And then the very last thing to do is the pom-pom. If you have a pom-pom maker, of course you can use it, but if not, we show you right here how to do it with your fingers. Thanks so much for joining us here on Yarnspirations.com for the Knit Fair Isle hat. I hope you have a wonderful time making them in all the colors of the rainbow. I'm Mary Beth Temple for Hooked for Life. Please make sure to subscribe to this channel for fresh content weekly on knitting, crocheting, and other yarny crafts. Bye-bye.